This is Firewatch, an indie game that was released in 2016 and was the talk of the internet for quite some time. This game was brought to my attention by a TikTok video about Queso playing. Curiosity got to me, and I decided to see if it was on Xbox, to which my surprise, it was. I downloaded it. As soon as I got to the homepage, I was struck with a sense of serenity and peace. I was visually struck with the graphics and art design, as I'm not your typical indie story game player. But just look at my channel. I'm aware that I've had missed my ticket to the hype train, but that's fine, because that's basically my entire channel's brand. Nowadays, it's very hard to find a game that makes such an astonishing impact on me when it comes to originality and design. But Firewatch was definitely something I'd never seen before. I was completely blind going into this game just to ensure I got a somewhat semi-enjoyable experience out of this game. But little did I know I'd get far more than a hit of an enjoyable experience. The game begins with a cutscene where Henry, our protagonist, exits a lift and gets into his car. As some backstory title screens unfold, we come to the realization that Henry has experienced some pretty traumatizing and tragic events back home. So he gets in his car and goes for a nice therapeutic walk in the Wyoming wilderness. It's a beautiful and star-striking experience as we slowly unfold and put pieces of Henry's backstory puzzle together. We find out that Henry's wife named Julia begins to display symptoms of an illness which is eventually revealed to be early onset dementia. The stress of caring for Julia eventually drives Henry to begin drinking heavily to deal with this sudden terrible event. Julia eventually goes to live with her family back in Australia. This over time leads Henry to accept the job with the Forest Service in an effort to get away from his problems. And this is where the story begins. A component of this game that comes to be incredibly crucial in the beginning and throughout this game is the dialogue. Unlike hastily throwing together captions, the dialogue in Firewatch is meaningful and impactful. These subtitles and text have a sense of meaning and fulfillment, and to put the icing on the cake, it doesn't feel unnatural or like filler. It feels highly necessary and needed in order to successfully tell such a top-tier quality story that Firewatch has. As the game slowly but efficiently moves forward in pace, we are greeted to a towering watchtower that overlooks and exemplifies the jaw-dropping visual landscape perfectly. All of a sudden we get a radio call from another Firewatch tower lookout, the person behind the walkie-talkie being named Lyle. This one and only form of communication for Henry would come to be very crucial and very important. Not to mention how much more enjoyable and a little bit of a mysterious vibe this gives off, compared to if we were able to talk and communicate to Delilah face to face. It just wouldn't have the same effect. If I were to tell you that this game was an indie horror game, you would most likely wouldn't believe me, and rightfully so. Its visuals and art style throw off the thought of it being horror related, but as you progress further into the game, you'll realize why. It coaxes you within this game in beautiful calming forests, but underneath all of that, you'll start to feel a strange sense of mystery, uncanny ambience. And that is why the execution of this indie horror game is amazing. When you typically think of a horror game, your mind goes straight to evil, dark, scary houses, ghosts, gore, clowns, and all that good stuff. But I reckon that the way the developers have decided to display and execute this game tricks 90% of players into thinking this is just a calm indie game. As you slowly progress through this game, your opinion to this game being calm and peaceful slowly starts to fade, as a sense of fear and anxiety starts to evolve in the pits of your stomach. You can feel an overwhelming sense that something's off and not right, and you're not wrong. Tensions rise at a perfect pace in this game, and in your mind, as suspicions of someone watching you increase, you constantly feel like you're being watched, and that someone or something is about to be revealed. I love how the game has been turned from a kind, nice, beautiful getaway, from past trauma to a horror game that lurks and oozes with a sense of uncertainty and the unknown. In most common horror games, the villain or horror character is known of and present. But in Firewatch, the person who you now know is stalking you has no footprint and no known figure to be based off. This makes Firewatch's horror side shine like no other. The forest's overall sense of barren emptiness doesn't help either, as it makes you aware of the serious risk of you and your life, as there would be no one who knows that you're gone. And this just makes Firewatch's horror aspect shine bright like a diamond. I love how the game exemplifies people's most common fears, like the fear of being alone. This is shown through the long and wide horizon of nothing but forest, and the only thing that is stopping you from going mentally insane is a walkie-talkie that has the one and only form of communication in other life. Something that is incredibly underseen but crucial to not only video games, but in real life, is the feeling of adventure. The feeling that you're achieving something even though you maybe might not be. The feeling that you're advancing and improving and learning new things through every step. And I think that Firewatch absolutely nails this feeling. Because as I mentioned earlier, the game is a progression and storytelling game. It's a game that requires you to push forward and continue in order to find out what piece of the puzzle you will receive next. The 3 to 4 hours that I spent playing this game were some of the most amazing and impressionable hours that I'd ever spent on a video game. Within that such small amount of time, I felt that the developers had managed to create such an emotionally and mentally impacting story to the viewer. Firewatch is more than a game. It's an unforgettable experience that combines beauty, mystery, and raw emotion. Whether you're a fan of story-driven games or not, this one is worth your time. Next, we of course have to talk about the ending of Firewatch. It has sparked mixed reactions from players, with some finding it underwhelming compared to the build-up, which I can 100% agree with. If you've played this game, then you can most likely agree that you've loved playing through it, but the ending was not the best. And again, if you haven't played this game yet, I definitely recommend playing this game, as it is one of my top 3 favourite games ever, and that's a lot coming from me. The game ends with Henry and Delilah, the other ranger he bonds with over the radio. Never meeting in person, this decision by the game developers is very bold and an interesting choice, but I reckon they have definitely made the right choice. Delilah leaves before he can reach her, and he is evacuated as a wildfire consumes the area. Many players, including myself, expected a more dramatic or emotionally satisfying resolution to the mystery and their relationship, which led to disappointment for those who felt that the story's climax fizzled rather than delivered. But I personally think that this is why the game blew up, and why it's so popular. It's because even till the end, they still decide to keep doing that aspect of mystery, incompletion, and unfulfillment. To summarize this whole video before I wrap this up, here is what we went through and talked about today. Firewatch can take you on an emotional journey through the Wyoming wilderness, where they step into the role of Henry, a fire lookout seeking solitude after personal hardships back home. As Henry forms a bond with this unseen supervisor, Delilah, their conversations reveals layers of vulnerability, humour, and tension, making the experience deeply personal and makes you feel involved in the conversations and story thanks to the first-person aspect. The game's central mystery involving the strange occurrences and a tragic backstory serves as a backdrop for the themes of isolation, loss, and the need for human connection. By the end, you're left with reflecting on the fragile nature of relationships and the ways we cope with life's challenges. Firewatch's gripping narrative and breathtaking visuals linger long after the credits roll, offering a poignant reminder of the beauty and complexity of human emotions. If you've made it this far, I just want to say a huge thank you for not only your time, but your attention. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to comment any other games that I should glaze and yap about. I know this is a very different style of content to my usual fast-paced and Mr. Beast R-style Fortnite content, probably because I'm going through a 15-year-old midlife crisis. But yeah, anyway, please let me know down in the comments if you have played this game and what you think of it. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. But yeah, have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next one.